Odin describes the battle between the Frost Giants and the Asgardians. The Asgardians win and they take the Casket of Ancient Winters back to Asgard. Odin is telling this story to his two young sons, Thor and Loki. He tells them that they're both worthy, but only one of them can really be king. Thor, now an adult, prepares for a ceremony where he'll be formally recognized as crown prince. Loki looks on enviously. Before Odin can proceed with the proclamation, he senses the presence of intruders. 3 frost giants break into Odin's vault, trying to steal the Casket of Ancient Winters, but the destroyer quickly destroys and vaporizes all 3 of them. Odin dismisses the intrusion, whereas Thor sees it as an act of war. Odin forbids Thor from going to Jotunheim. Thor, Loki, Volstagg, Hogun, and Lady Sif go to the Bifrost, where Heimdall uses it to send them to Jotunheim. Once in Jotunheim, they confront the king of the Frost Giants, Laufey. Laufey gives them the opportunity to leave peacefully, but Thor attacks first, starting an all-out battle, forcing Odin to show up and save them. Once back on Asgard, Odin banishes Thor to Earth. He also sends his hammer, Mjolnir, after him, but first he enchants it with, "Whoever possesses this hammer, if he be worthy, shall possess the power of Thor." Meanwhile, on Earth, Jane Foster, Eric Selvig, and Darcy Lewis, 3 scientists, are researching Aurora Borealis-type phenomenons, and they spot a strange tornado with colors. They immediately drive into it and then accidentally hit Thor. They leave the unconscious Thor at a hospital, and they go back to their lab and check out all their footage from the event, and they discover that he was in the storm. So they go back to the hospital looking for Thor, but he's escaped. As they're trying to look for him, they're backing up, and she hits into Thor again. As Agent Phil Coulson arrives at the hammer crash site, men are lining up to try and lift the hammer. They all decide to tie a chain to the hammer and pull it with their truck. They attempt to do it and it rips the truck apart. The driver is revealed to be Stan Lee. Back on Asgard, the Warriors 3 and Lady Sif discuss the possibility of Loki being the traitor that let the Frost Giants into Asgard. But they shrug it off because he couldn't possibly betray Odin like that. Loki picks up the Casket of Ancient Winters and Odin walks into the vault. As Loki is picking up the casket, he begins to turn blue like a frost giant, and he begins to ask Odin what is he, and Odin eventually explains to him that he is a frost giant that he picked up as an infant and raised as his own child. Meanwhile, on Earth, Thor and his 3 scientist friends hear of a crashed satellite. They realize quickly that this is Thor's hammer. Thor gets Jane Foster to drive him to the crash site after she finds out that S.H.I.E.L.D. is taking away all of her research. Back on Asgard, Lady Sif and the Warriors 3 go to confront Odin about their suspicion of Loki, and they find out that Loki is on the throne as Odin has fallen into the great Odin sleep. They ask Loki to undo the banishment of Thor, but he says no. Jane Foster and Thor arrive at the hammer. Thor is able to infiltrate the base camp around the hammer by S.H.I.E.L.D. He's able to get to the hammer, and when he's targeted by Hawkeye, he attempts to lift the hammer, but fails, and then he's taken into custody by S.H.I.E.L.D. In between interrogations, Loki appears and tells them that Odin is dead, and that he cannot return to Asgard. Eric Selvig then shows up with a fake ID and gets Thor released. On the way out, Thor steals the notebook of Jane Foster from S.H.I.E.L.D. Selvig takes Thor to a bar and tells Thor he wants him to stay away from Jane Foster. Loki goes to Jotunheim where he speaks to Laufey, king of the Frost Giants, and he explains to him that he was the person who let them into Asgard earlier, and that he wants him to return to Asgard so he can kill Odin so that they can make Loki king. On Earth, Thor brings a drunk Eric Selvig back to Jane, and he hands her back her notebook, and he begins to explain her the 9 realms and the Bifrost. The Warriors 3 and Lady Sif decide they must go to Midgard, aka Earth, and go find Thor. Loki decides to send the Destroyer after Thor and his friends, in order to ensure his place as king of Asgard. The Warriors 3 and Lady Sif find Thor just as the Destroyer arrives on Earth. The Warriors 3 and Lady Sif battle the Destroyer, but they are unable to defeat him. An unpowered Thor decides to face the Destroyer and give himself up to Loki in order to save everyone in the town. The Destroyer hits him once, sends him flying, almost kills him, and then the hammer returns back to Thor, and he gets his powers back as the God of Thunder. Now the God of the Thunder destroys the Destroyer, and then promptly returns to Asgard, where Loki is letting the Frost Giants in through the Bifrost to attack Odin. Laufey is just about to kill Odin during his Odin sleep, when Loki comes in and destroys Laufey and kills him. Loki sets the Bifrost to destroy Jotunheim, but Thor won't have this. So Thor decides to destroy the Rainbow Bridge and also destroying the Bifrost. The two brothers fall into the void of space when Odin catches Thor and Thor catches Loki's staff. Loki then decides to let go and falls into the void of space.
Legend tells us one thing, history another. But every now and then we find something that belongs to both.
What is it?
Power, Doctor. If we can figure out how to tap it, maybe unlimited power.
Well, I guess that's worth a look. Well, I guess that's worth a look.